I sat by the floor-to-ceiling window of my high-rise apartment, the early morning sun reflecting off the glass like a spotlight I hadn't asked for. My silk blouse felt impossibly smooth against my skin, a quiet luxury that reminded me how far I'd come. I sipped my coffee, the rich aroma curling around me, and scrolled through emails, careful not to let my eyes linger too long on anything that might feel too personal. Success, I'd learned, was best kept close to the chest, especially when your past was littered with the voices that doubted you. Then my phone buzzed on the marble countertop. The name flashing made my chest tighten. Mom. I froze, fingers hovering above the screen, my mind racing through every way I could avoid this call. But curiosity won, as it always did. Hello, I said, my voice steady, smooth. Her laugh came through first, light and condescending, just as I remembered it from my 20s. Still spending all that time in your little office? Still chasing that degree of yours? I felt the familiar sting, the old, sharp pinch of belittlement, and for a moment I was that girl again. Awkward, unsure, the one she dismissed at every dinner, every family gathering. But I wasn't her little girl anymore. Not by a long shot. I glanced at the framed photo on my desk, the one of my first client signing a contract, my signature bold at the bottom. A quiet smile tugged at my lips. Little did she know, her paycheck now depended on me. I remember the living room like it was yesterday. Faded floral wallpaper, the faint scent of Mom's perfume lingering in the air, and the hum of the ceiling fan above. I was 22, fresh out of college, diploma in hand, my dreams bigger than the small town I'd grown up in. My hands trembled as I placed the certificate on the coffee table, hoping, just hoping, for a flicker of pride in her eyes. Instead, she laughed. That sharp, dismissive laugh I'd heard too many times before. Seriously, Emma, she said, crossing her arms. A degree in what was it again? Art history? And you think that's going to get you somewhere? Her words stung like cold water. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the certificate. Every ounce of effort, every sleepless night studying, every late shift at the library, it all felt like it had been reduced to a punchline. Dad sat quietly, pretending not to notice, as if my humiliation was somehow my fault. I wanted to vanish, to disappear into the wallpaper itself. But in the corner of the room, my grandmother's old brooch caught the sunlight, a tiny golden compass she had given me the day I left for college. Follow your own path, no matter what anyone says, she had whispered. That compass had become my secret talisman. I clutched it in my pocket that night, feeling its weight, and made a decision I'd never regret. I'll show you, I said softly, barely above a whisper, but with a steel edge underneath. I don't need anyone to validate me. That moment, standing there in the heart of my family's doubts, was the turning point. I left the room with my diploma clutched to my chest and my heart full of defiance. I didn't know exactly where I was going or how I would get there, but I knew one thing: I would make it on my own terms. And when I did, no one would ever have the power to mock my choices again. I moved to the city with nothing but a suitcase, my diploma, and that little golden compass tucked into my coat pocket. Every morning, the streets felt endless, like a maze of possibilities and pitfalls. I rented a tiny studio apartment, the kind with creaky floors and thin walls, but it was mine, and that was enough. I reminded myself every day that the world outside my family's judgment was mine to conquer. I found a mentor almost by accident. Olivia Hartman, a senior executive at a boutique marketing firm, noticed me struggling with a proposal during a freelance gig. She had sharp eyes, and when she asked why I hadn't presented my ideas with confidence, I almost wanted to shrink into the floor. Instead, I said honestly, I guess I wasn't sure anyone would take me seriously. She laughed, warm, encouraging, and said, Emma, you're brilliant. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not your mom, not the world. Own it. That was the first time I believed someone outside my family saw my potential. Olivia guided me, pushing me to refine my skills, to network, to pitch ideas fearlessly. I learned how to negotiate contracts, to balance budgets, and to sell not just services, but my own credibility. The nights were long. I pored over spreadsheets, attended networking events that felt like gladiator arenas, and sometimes cried quietly in my apartment when a client fell through or a pitch failed. Self-doubt was relentless, whispering that I'd never be enough. But each small win, a successfully closed deal, a client's glowing testimonial, my first significant paycheck, felt like a brick in the foundation I was building for myself. I began saving, investing, and quietly assembling the tools I would need to create something bigger. I opened an LLC under my own name, registered trademarks, and slowly built a portfolio that could rival anyone's in the city. Each step forward was invisible to my family. I posted only modest updates on social media, careful to hide the scope of my success. The golden compass remained in my pocket during every major meeting, a secret reminder of that night I vowed to prove myself. It became more than a keepsake. It was my symbol of resilience, a quiet force that carried me through rejection, doubt, and the sneers of those who once belittled me. By the time I reached my 30th birthday, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. My client list had grown, my company had a small but elite team, and I had investments in multiple ventures. Most importantly, I had a life that was mine, built on my terms. And somewhere deep inside, I knew the day would come when those who doubted me would finally see the woman I had become. The knock on the glass door of my office made my heart flutter in a way it hadn't for years. I wasn't nervous in the way you think. I was calm, poised, every detail of my environment reflecting the woman I had become. My office was spacious, sunlight pouring over polished wood floors and walls adorned with abstract art I'd collected during trips I had taken on my own dime. A sleek leather chair, a desk meticulously organized, and a single golden compass encased in a glass frame on the corner of the desk, a subtle nod to my past, completed the space. "Emma?" the voice called, hesitant, carrying the weight of disbelief. Mom and Dad stepped in, eyes scanning the room, their expressions shifting from casual curiosity to cautious awe. Mom's lips parted slightly, the same little smirk she always wore when she thought she was in control, now replaced with something else. Confusion, maybe even fear. "Hi," I said, my voice smooth, confident. "I wasn't expecting you today." Dad cleared his throat, glancing at Mom, then at me, silently asking what this display meant. I leaned back in my chair, letting them absorb it all. The office, the art, the aura of success that hung in the room like a tangible curtain. After a beat, Mom finally found her voice, sharp and incredulous. "Emma, all of this, how?" I smiled, the kind that's both warm and unstoppable. "You remember how you always mocked my degree? Called it useless?" I let the words linger. Her eyes widened, a flicker of recognition, of guilt perhaps. "Well," she started, fumbling for words. "I signed your paycheck this month." I interrupted gently, letting it settle over her like a weight she hadn't anticipated. "The company you've been running, managing operations for, is under my ownership. Every contract, every invoice, every decision, all of it falls under my authority." There was a long pause. Dad's mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Mom's face turned pale, eyes darting from the desk to the framed golden compass, and finally resting on me. You're the CEO?" Mom whispered, disbelief lacing every syllable. "Yes," I said, leaning forward slightly, letting the authority in my posture reinforce the truth. "And this," I gestured around the room, "is the life I built without anyone's permission, without anyone taking me seriously." Mom's hands trembled. She took a step back as though the air itself had shifted. For years, she had assumed she held power over me, that her opinions could shape my path. But here I was, every contract signed, every financial decision made, the very person she had once dismissed now controlling her livelihood. I let the room breathe with tension, allowing the magnitude of the revelation to sink in. Their astonishment was a quiet symphony, Dad's jaw tight, Mom's disbelief slowly morphing into shame, then awe. "I didn't build this life to punish you," I continued, my tone even, commanding, yet not cruel. I built it for me. And now, if you want to be part of it, you will need to understand one thing. Respect, integrity, and accountability are no longer optional. They are the currency here. Mom looked down, eyes glistening, swallowing something between regret and realization. I leaned back, letting the moment hang. She had mocked my degree, my ambition, and yet here she was, dependent on the very daughter she once belittled. The power shift was complete, undeniable, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Quiet satisfaction. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the city below. I watched Mom fidget, hands twisting nervously, while Dad's gaze darted between the sleek desk and me. The weight of years of dismissal, the jokes, the condescension, they all hung in the air, heavy, almost tangible. And now, the balance had shifted entirely. I want to be clear, I said, voice calm but firm, each word deliberate. I am in control here. And being in control doesn't mean I'm unkind. It means I decide the terms of how we move forward. Mom flinched slightly. Emma, we didn't know. You mocked my education, my career choices, my drive. I continued, letting the words land softly but sharply. But I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to give you a choice. You can be part of this life, part of this company, but only under certain conditions. I leaned forward, my hands resting lightly on the desk, making eye contact with both of them. First, respect is non-negotiable. Not just for me, but for anyone you work with. No belittling, no dismissive jokes, no undermining authority. Everyone deserves the dignity you once denied me. Mom's eyes widened. I can do that, she said quietly, uncertainty in her tone. Second, I continued, you must commit to growth. That means taking accountability for your actions, learning from mistakes, and contributing meaningfully. I won't tolerate half-hearted effort. Dad shifted uncomfortably. And the finances? He asked, almost afraid of the answer. Transparency, I replied. You will manage operations as you always have, but all decisions will align with the vision I've set. You'll report honestly, track progress, and understand that your livelihood now reflects your engagement and respect for the work, not just tradition or title. I paused, letting my words sink in. This wasn't revenge. It was restructuring the relationship, redefining boundaries that had been ignored for decades. I wanted them to grow, not resent. I wanted them to understand the value of respect and accountability, and for me, that meant being unflinching. Finally, I added a personal note, softening slightly. I also want you to pursue your own passions. No more living through fear or expectation. Find what brings you purpose, and do it with integrity. But if you step back into the patterns of the past, there's no going back. Mom exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and trepidation. Dad nodded, understanding at last that this wasn't punishment, but transformation. I felt a strange warmth, the satisfaction of authority balanced with compassion. For years, I had imagined this moment as payback, but in reality, it was far more satisfying to create conditions for real change, for growth, and for respect. I straightened in my chair, golden compass glinting faintly on the desk, a reminder of the journey I had taken alone. I had built this life with my own hands, and now, finally, those who once dismissed me had a chance to rise, or to fall, based on their choices. And for the first time in years, I felt entirely, unshakably in control. Weeks passed, and the shift I had set in motion began to take shape. Mom arrived early to meetings, taking notes, asking thoughtful questions instead of sarcasm. Dad stopped second-guessing, showing a genuine curiosity for the company's growth instead of offering tired criticisms. It wasn't perfect. Old habits die slowly, but the willingness was there, and that was enough. I watched them change in small, quiet ways. Mom stayed late one evening, reviewing a new project plan, and laughed, not at me, but at the clever strategy she had helped implement. She caught my eye and smiled, an acknowledgement of what I had built and what she had once doubted. Dad began mentoring one of our younger team members, passing on wisdom without condescension, finding pride in tangible contribution rather than assumed authority. And me? I allowed myself to sit back and reflect, really reflect on the journey. I remembered that living room, the mocking laughter, the sting of being dismissed. I remembered the tremble in my hands as I held my diploma, the encouragement of a mentor who saw me before anyone else did, and the golden compass that had guided me through every uncertain step. Each memory was a thread woven into the tapestry of who I had become. Success had never been just about money or prestige. It was about proving, to myself, more than anyone else, that resilience, hard work, and self-belief could create something lasting. It was about reclaiming power that had been questioned, denied, and even mocked. The golden compass still sat in its frame on my desk, catching the afternoon light just so, and I found myself smiling at it. It wasn't just a symbol of defiance anymore. It was a reminder of growth, of patience, and of the strength it takes to transform pain into purpose. And in that moment, I realized something profound. I didn't need to prove myself to anyone anymore. I had created a life I was proud of on my terms, and those who had once doubted me were now seeing the woman I had always known I could be. I leaned back in my chair, letting the hum of the city below fill the silence, and whispered to myself, a private affirmation and a promise. I am enough, I am capable, and I will always honor the path I've chosen. And with that, I smiled, quiet, victorious, unshakable. Bottom of form.